Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide and the long-awaited in-depth review of the latest Boox Tab Ultra C Pro iteration of their flagship 10.3-inch color tablet PC line of devices. Full disclosure, this unit has been kindly sent to me and provided by Boox, but this is a review loan device. I do not get to keep it. It goes back once I'm done with it, and therefore Boox has absolutely no say in what I say, think, or share with you guys regarding this device or any other. The independence of My Deep Guide as a channel is basically made possible by you guys, by your support, by liking the videos, by subscribing to the channel, by commenting, because that helps the algorithm and the visibility of the videos, helps other people find the video as well and the channel as well. And also, if you would like to kind of help the independence and the whole thing a little bit more, you can check out the mydeepguide.com/shop, where you can find the MDO, My Daily Organizer, which is a hyperlinked PDF file for all of your yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily organizing and journaling needs. And also you can find the My Deep Guide Meeting Planner, which is also a hyperlinked PDF file, but that one is for simplifying, organizing and centralizing all of your meeting planning needs. If either of those two or both sound interesting to you, check out the links down below or the mydeepguide.com/shop, but in the links down below in the description you will find two playlists, one for each of them, and there you will find tons of videos that explain exactly what each of the products are and if they're something for you or not. So 2024 is coming, MDO 2024 is there, so go check it out. And now onwards with the Tab Ultra C Pro. And here is the actual device, and let's start with the overview, like just what it is for those who are not in the know. So the Tab Ultra C Pro is the latest iteration of the Boox's attempt of creating what they call an e-ink tablet PC. I don't think that it falls into that category, but that's what they're going for, so let's use their language because and look at it from that perspective. So ultimately this is a 10.3-inch Android 12 tablet that uses a Kaleido 3 color panel. The Kaleido 3 color panel is 300 ppi in black and white, 100 ppi in color displaying color content, and this is a BSR, Boox Speed Refresh Technology enabled device, which means it has excellent clarity and performance, but also at a drastically enhanced battery consumption. It is a very powerful device, more on that in the specification sections. It does have a little camera and all that kind of stuff. So basically it's an Android 12 e-ink powerhouse tablet that is attempting to replace your regular Android 12 or 13 tablet or an iPad, except that it's using an e-ink screen. The specifications of the Tab Ultra C are indeed impressive in most aspects, but in some are, yeah, it's basically the same thing. So effectively, this is a Tab Ultra C on steroids. The main steroid is basically the upgraded SoC, which has now a Snapdragon 855. So the Snapdragon 8 series is a significantly different kind of a beast than the 6 series that we have seen in all of the previous devices. It also has more RAM than Tab Ultra C at 6 GB. It has 128 GB of storage. 108.26 GB is actually available to the user, but it also has a micro SD card slot, which I believe supports a micro SD card expansion up to 2 TB. The battery has actually come down to 4,600 milliamps, which is quite a bit less than what we had on the Tab Ultra C. The screen is the same one, Kaleido 3, which, as I said, 300 ppi black and white content, 150 ppi color content. This is a massive color matrix on top of a 16 grayscale display. So it is not an active display, active color display, and therefore you cannot choose that the device will be in black and white or color mode. It's just simply how the black and white pixels are rendered and how the color pixels are rendered. If you're interested to learn more about the color e-ink technology and how does a Kaleido screen work, check out the color Kaleido video that I made with microscopic images and all that kind of stuff once you're done watching this video, of course. It also has on top something they call onyx glass, which is something that we've seen, I believe, on the Note Air 3C as well, and that is simply a thinner type of a glass, which is slightly thinner, slightly lighter, and it performs well on the Note Air 3C, and it does have a little bit of a give, although I do feel that it was a little bit better on the Note Air 3C. I don't know, maybe it's a subjective kind of thing, but it does have that improved glass on top as well. On the rear, we have the 16 megapixel camera. It's the same type of camera that we had on the Tab Ultra C. And it comes normally with your Wi-Fi, with Bluetooth, with stereo speakers, stereo microphones. It has a G and Hall sensors. It comes with an Android 12. It's a Google Play enabled device. It's a little bit thinner than the Tab Ultra C. It's 0.01 millimeters thinner than the Tab Ultra C at 6.6 millimeters. And because of a smaller battery, it is lighter at 450 grams. However, the price tag is still very high at $650 for the device only. It comes with the Pen 2 Pro pen, right? And if you want a keyboard cover, that's another $150. So $800 for the device with the keyboard cover pack. And I believe there's like a discount currently going, so you can get it for $740, the whole package. But that's a high price tag. So let's start with the design and the build quality. Well, the design is exactly the same like the Tab Ultra C. Everything is on the first glance exactly the same, but then you have some small differences. The main difference that you're going to notice is this Pogo connector is now on the back, and on the Tab Ultra C it was down here. This Pogo connector is used to establish a hard-wired connection between the device and the keyboard cover. And the problem before with the Pogo being here and the way that the cover was designed on the Tab Ultra C is that people would frequently lose the connection while typing or moving the device. This is supposedly to be an improvement of that, and it is to some extent, but it doesn't eliminate the issue completely. The next one is the addition of the volume rocker keys, which are also assignable, and they can be used to control the light intensity, the volume, page turning, or something else that you may want to choose. On the top, we have the power button that does have a fingerprint reader, and we have one of the stereo speakers, and the other of the stereo speakers is on the other end here. Micro SD card slot and USB-C are right down there. I believe that the microphones are also situated here on the left and right, and that's another kind of important improvement that you have with the Tab Ultra C, because obviously it was meant to be used in a landscape mode with the keyboard, you know, kind of laid down there. And in that use case scenario, you do have your stereo panoramic audio image, because you have the right and the left speaker placed at the right and the left place, which was not the case previously. On the back, the rear sensor, well, it's the same rear sensor, but the manufacturing process seems to have been improved, because this time around it is perfectly aligned with the casing. And talking about the casing, it's a unibody metal cover all the way. So this is just a one bucket design here with the plastic here, which allows, it's a nice design here, but it also is there for for a practical reason to allow the transmittance of the wireless signals. The build quality is really, really good and really, really nice. I am not a fan of this design, but this is a very, very nicely built and executed device, which it has to be for that price range. It absolutely has to deliver on that. Now, one of the biggest gripes that I've had with the Tab Ultra C and the Tab Ultra is that the bucket design here, the screen was sinking way too much and these edges would protrude too far out. Combined with the fact that they are really, really thin, as you can see, even though they're beveled, but they're beveled into a very, very thin edge. The end result was that you had quite a lot of discomfort and you had these edges basically cutting into the side of your palm, which was not a fun time to have when using this as a writing device, nor when using it like this to kind of hold it, because it would dig in to your palms in the corners here and it was just generally an unpleasant affair. This has been improved, and I believe this is where that difference of 0.1 millimeter is, because I measured previously and that kind of difference was exactly 0.1 millimeters, and now we no longer have that stuff poking to the sides as much. It still pokes a little. I think that maybe the light can kind of catch it. Yeah, I think maybe here you can see that it still pokes a little bit from the screen, but drastically less, and you can feel that way, way less. So that is definitely an improvement. On the side, we also have the indication where the magnet goes, and the pen also has that indication, and yeah, it holds the pen quite well. So this is where your pen snaps, and that's it. So overall, yeah, it's the same design. I was not a fan of that design. There's a couple of reasons. Yes, it does look nice, and yes, it's executed in a beautiful way. No, it is not ergonomically suited to be an e-reader, and it is not ergonomically suited to be an e-note taker. Granted, it is not marketed as such. It's marketed as a tablet, Android PC kind of thing, so maybe that's why that's the case. Biggest problems for me is, of course, that camera bump on the back makes it virtually, of course this is a soft padded kind of thing, but then when you're on a flat surface it's rocking all the time and makes it impossible to write. So basically your device needs to live in the Flipbook cover, which does eliminate that problem. But my overall issue is that it's just a tablet, doesn't have any real personality about it, and while that's a negative for me, that might be a positive for somebody else, because certainly it is an elegant looking device and it's a well executed and well manufactured device, no question about that. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of taste, and this one particularly is not up to my subjective personal taste. The pen that you get with the Tab Ultra C Pro is their top-of-the-line Pen 2 Pro pen, which I also have an in-depth review of. You can find probably the link down up here, and if you're interested. And this is a really good pen. It has an eraser on the back, it doesn't have a button, it has a normal replaceable nib here. The nib is of their default standard, right? So you can actually replace it. If you don't like the Boox nibs, you can replace it with Remarkable nibs or Wacom nibs or something like that. It has a magnet. The magnet snaps very nicely in place where it's supposed to be. Now let's see if it can lift the device. Yes, very comfortably, and you can actually rock it side to side, and that is a very, very good pen. Of course, it will get knocked off if you hit it on the side, but overall it's holding on fairly well. The only thing that I don't like about this is basically the placement of the rocker buttons with the pen. It's extremely difficult to kind of use them there, and I understand why they wanted them here on the side, but if you're gonna have a pen on the side and the volume or page turn buttons, I found that to be very awkward to use. So I would find myself either moving the pen away and then using this, but that's not an ideal solution, because maybe you're reading a document and you want to mark it up, and maybe you would like to be able to use all of that, but you can't. Of course you can, you know, tap and do all that kind of stuff, but it makes me wonder, how about maybe on this side? which is free of anything and it doesn't have the pen in the way. So then you could just do that. Maybe, but that's a missed opportunity. Battery life of the Tab Ultra C Pro is complicated, to say the least. So I wanted to present it in this slightly different and more easier to read kind of presentation, such as a chart. And we have the standard categories as always. I do the reading, where the device auto flips pages every 20 seconds. And this is repeated 3 times with the front light set at 100% intensity, 50% intensity, or turned off. In all of these tests, Wi-Fi is on, Bluetooth is off. I let the device do that for 1 hour and I calculate the average. And the same thing is for the writing. I write for 1 hour continuously with the front light at 50% and then with the front light at 0%. And here it was playing YouTube at 50% of the front light. A little caveat on that a little bit later. But the battery performance, here we have 2 charts. You can see the red one and the blue one. The blue one is how the device performs when it's not in the keyboard stand, right? So that's kind of important because there's actually a noticeable and measurable and consistently noticeable battery performance drop-off when you are using the keyboard cover. So without the keyboard cover, with the front light at 100%, you can expect around 8.33 hours of constant reading time per charge. That drops off to 7.14 hours with the keyboard attached. If we lower the front light to 50%, that performance jumps up to 11.1 hours per charge of reading time. Without the cover, 10 hours with the keyboard cover. And if you turn off the front light altogether, then we have 12.5 hours per charge of reading time without the keyboard cover and 11.1 hours per charge with the keyboard cover. As we've come to understand now, the front light really doesn't manage to play any noticeable difference when writing, because the writing is the most CPU intensive and system intensive task there, and therefore that is the one that's the primary consumer. So you can expect the same type of performance with 8.33 hours of writing, continuous writing per charge. I did not do it with the keyboard cover attached for obvious reasons, but if this here is anything to be governed by, then I guess we would look at a similar drop-off here. So overall, the performance of Tab Ultra C Pro is kind of on the level with the Note Air 3C, with slightly better results in lower front light reading times, but nothing really majorly different. So similar type of performance like the Note Air 3C, marginally better. Now regarding the YouTube, I let the 4K video play at front light 50% for 1 hour exactly, and then I measured the battery performance. And battery performance was, yeah, it would amount to around 6.25 hours of that kind of video streaming and viewing per charge. However, I wanted to kind of compare something, because my phone, OnePlus 7 Pro, has the exact same SoC as the Tab Ultra C Pro. The same processor, absolutely the same. And then I wanted to see, like, you know, we know that the whole point of an e-ink screen is better battery consumption, right? That's one of the big points. The other big point is, of course, the harmful blue light and everything like that. But let's say battery consumption wise, well, take a look at that. This is the same system. So my phone is this one, OnePlus 7 Pro, performing the exact same task on the exact same Wi-Fi, everything exactly the same. Front light set at 50% on the Tab Ultra C Pro. In the phone case, it's backlight set at 50%. Same exact CPU, everything exactly the same, yet we have 10 hours of battery performance with the battery of 4000 milliamps on the OnePlus 7 Pro. And for me, that's the kicker. I mean, my phone has the exact same processor. It's supposed to have a much more power-hungry display because it's running at much higher refresh rate and more colors and more nits for illumination. and a smaller battery. In real life, a regular device is outperforming Tab Ultra C Pro battery efficiency by a huge margin using, again, smaller battery, exact same SoC. That is a problem. That is a glaring problem that Boox absolutely has to focus on, because for all of the positives that the BSR technology does bring, this is a problem because, yeah, Tab Ultra C Pro, more than any other tablet, is trying to compete against regular tablets, which are going to have even better performance than my phone here. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of get your attention onto this, because I think this is an important point of consideration to keep in mind, and yeah, just to see like where the direction is going with e-ink devices when we're talking about BSR and the likes types of technologies in these devices. Image quality on the Tab Ultra C Pro is really good. It does lack that paper-like feel, more on that when we talk about the writing feel and writing experience, but the plus side of that is that because the surface of the screen is less grainy, that means that the content that you see displayed on the screen is less grainy as well. So as a result, this Tab Ultra C Pro will have a slightly crisper and slightly sharper type of an image quality than, let's say, when you compare it to the Note Air 3C. That being said, the difference is very marginal, but it is there. So overall, the image quality is really good, and yeah, it is able to handle the graphs and things like that. So for example, if we zoom in here, then you can see a graph here. It's perfectly able to render these things in a good and normal way. And if you combine, for example, the rendering of an image with the text, it's really good. So overall, I really do like the image quality of the Tab Ultra C, and it's something that's like system-wide. So yeah, no matter what you are doing, this is in a Neo reader, but this image quality will translate to anything that you use, apps, browsing, whatever it may be. It is able to render color content really well. So of course the colors are going to be washed out, and they cannot really compare, especially the reds cannot compare with LCDs or especially with OLEDs, but that's not what it's trying to do in the first place. As an e-ink, color e-ink device, it is trying to mimic the color on paper, and this is like an older magazine type of color quality, which is really nice. Now these are the examples that I'm showing from a Neo reader, and you can see the refreshing here and the speed of it, but you can of course change the refresh mode to be something to a speed mode, for example. And if I do change to a speed mode here, you will have noticed that there was a bit of an image degradation, but the increase in speed is absolutely tremendous. So then it becomes super fast. This whole screen refreshing thing, this is something that you can adjust after how many actions will it do a full screen refresh. As far as image quality and controls go, you have a ton of controls. So you can enhance the darkness to extreme levels, you can enhance the vividness of the colors, you can actually enhance color brightness, things like that. I tend to use it in such a mode that it's like either completely negate the dark color enhancement or leave it as a default, because default is kind of good, a little bit on the darker side because they're emphasizing the contrast, but it's overall quite a good option. You also have the high contrast mode, but this is only for the system-wide balanced fast and ultra fast refresh modes. It doesn't work in the Neo reader, and it doesn't work in the HD refresh mode, but it's something to just kind of keep in mind. So overall, excellent image quality. If somebody is wondering about Additional controls, yes, you have them in the Neo Reader, so you can embolden text, sharpen images, bleach watermark, dark color enhancement. That's kind of doubling up, but I went to the contrast here for one reason, and that is this image smoothing, which is not on by default. And if it is off, let me just find an image that will illustrate that better. And also I need to go into the regular Regal refresh mode, so that we can show, yes, okay. So you see these lines here across the cloud, that's called color banding, right? And that's because there's no process called dithering. So you can eliminate that banding, and if you focus on this one, when I go to contrast image smoothing and I turn it on, you can see how that has been improved. It's not completely gone, you have a little bit here, but it's overall improved by quite a lot. As far as the image goes, in complicated situations, let me zoom in. So here we are at the maximum zoom level, and we have white on black, which is usually the most unfavorable option that you would have on an e-ink device. And you can see the quality and the sharpness that you can have on the Tab Ultra C. So really, really good image quality overall. And this combination naturally lends itself really, really well for comic book reading. So I'm just going to go to HD mode, where the colors are basically the best possible, but you have a lot of ghosting. So for comic book reading, I would actually recommend going with balanced, and for most of the things I would go with balanced, because the combination of everything is just right. And then, for example, if you would like to enhance a little bit more, I can enhance the vividness and maybe the color brightness a little bit, and vividness over here, and you can see that the color is starting to pop up a little bit more. So these things are fairly cool, and when you combine it with the performance of the device, so for example, if you wanted to make it even faster, you can go to fast, and then it's going to be even smoother and faster. And because it has an auto rotation, you can actually read your comic books like this, which is actually a really nice experience overall. So the combination of the speed, the clarity, the colors, the auto rotation option, and the fact that this is an e-ink screen, that it's not glowing at you, that it has that paper-like quality when reading, it really lends itself into a very nice comic book type of reading experience. Reflectivity of the screen, well, this is a fairly smooth screen, so the reflectivity is not going to be as good as it is on the Note Air 3C or any of those devices like that, but it's okay. So I rarely find a situation where it really does bother me, but when you do, it is there, and then you can definitely see the sharp reflections, and that is something that you absolutely have to keep in mind, because, for example, this is the same light here, and the Note Air 3C basically eliminating those pinpoints of light. So when you have them side by side, the intensity level is pretty much the same, but you can see that the sharpness is definitely better, less sharp reflections on the Note Air 3C, and that's due to its paper-like film that's pre-applied, that's not a part of the Tab Ultra C. And there were also no surprises in the surface distance test. So this is basically, let's say, 0.9 millimeters or 1 or 0.9, depending on how you can actually look at this shadow here, but overall around a millimeter of surface to screen distance. As far as surface roughness measurements go, no surprise there, the coefficient, and when you actually compare it to the performance when compared to the roughness of the paper, it's super duper low, pretty much the same margin of error taken into consideration, but pretty much exactly the same like the Tab Ultra C, like the Tab Ultra. The Tab Ultra C Pro is right there, and it's, it makes sense because it's pretty much the same type of surface that it had. So It's not glass-like, super duper slippery and stuff like that, but it is in the category of the slipperiest devices that have been here on test. And just to kind of compare, the Note Air 3C is here with 28.58% of the roughness of the paper, while the Tab Ultra C Pro is down at 17% of the roughness of the paper. So something that is a very, very noticeable difference. As far as the front light goes, this is, for example, darker conditions in a room in a dark day, no front light at all. And now I'm gonna enable it up to roughly a middle, and this is all the way to the maximum. This is not a linear progression at all. So I find that the from 0 to 50, it's very, very kind of sensitive, and then from 50 onwards it starts kind of ramping up quite significantly. So the uniformity of the front light is quite good. I don't see anything that really bothers me, but some people may be incensed by a slight darkness here on the side. It's difficult to kind of notice. You only notice it if you're running the device at the absolute maximum. And you can see that this is the warm light, this is the cold light, and this is somewhere in between. You can balance it out any way you want. So that color band on the side, the darkness, that's the only irregularity that I can see. Otherwise, everything seems to be fairly uniform, as you can see, and there's no significant color bleeds or anything like that, which is definitely a nice thing to see. And they have the flicker-free front light here, which is also something that's a nice thing to see. As far as the dead pixel issues go, well, Kaleido 3 panels are more prone to more frequent dead pixel issues. This one in particular doesn't really have. I know that people were like, oh, I saw the dead pixel. No, you didn't. You saw a crumb or a dust speck or something, because this is a highly lit circumstances here. And yes, there is a dead pixel, but you have to set the device in an extremely specific way, which is super dark background, and the front light needs to be pumped up all the way up. So the front light has to be on, and it has to be at a super high intensity for a dead pixel to even show. And I managed to somehow find one. The rest of the stuff that you see is basically crumbs and stuff. But this here, it's going to be very difficult for the camera to pick it up, but hopefully it does. But right here, that little speck down there, that's the only dead pixel that I was able to find on this unit. Everything else that you see, that you may think that you see, is basically, yes, dust and all that kind of stuff, which is something that's basically unavoidable in any normal setting, especially when you set all of the floodlights in that I have here for the recording conditions. However, just because this unit has only one tiny little speck, that doesn't mean that yours won't have somewhere where it's far more obvious, that it won't have more dead pixels or things like that. So that's something that's an inherent flaw of the E-Ink, basically how they produce their panels, and there's very little that Boox can actually do except basically implement a better quality control. So it remains to be seen how many people complain and return their products. For example, how many Tab Ultra C Pros are going to be returned because of the dead pixel issue, as opposed to when compared to with the Tab Ultra C. I really don't know, because they're the exact same panels. So yeah, that's something that you definitely have to kind of keep in mind. But yeah, that's the case with this unit here. And this is simply an example to illustrate what the darkness of the Kaleido 3 panel is like when compared to a white envelope and the traditional black and white e-ink screen. Now, as a reader, to cover all of the functionalities of the Neo reader, which is one of the most functional and powerful readers on the market, it's a really big strong point for Boox devices, in my opinion at least. It's beyond the scope of this video, and that's something that I'm working on currently, creating a series of videos that's going to be basically tutorials and user guides for the Boox 3.5 5 OS platform. That being said, I'm just going to try and give you a very short overview. You can definitely annotate on your documents and gestures that you can use by writing and highlighting and things like that. So it's MyScript-alike or esque, if you will. But all of that is going to be in that video, in the tutorial guide, because it applies to all of the Boox devices. So I'm not going to be centralizing that or focusing as a user guide type of a video, just a review of the overall device that uses Boox 3.5. The performance, as you've seen, is excellent, and the image quality is excellent. So this is in HD mode, but if you really want it to go super blisteringly fast, then you need to go many steps until you can get to the option of changing the refresh mode, because for some reason the refresh mode is not linked to the system refresh mode, but okay. So the performance is excellent, and overall functionality is excellent, and compatibility is excellent with the Neo Reader, which is the built-in reader app. However, this is an Android 12 app device, and with a Google Play enabled store, and that means that I can install my Kindle, I can log in, and as you've seen, I've looked at my comic books, and then you can read your other comic books if you want, and yeah, it's the same type of experience, which is really good. Very nice and smooth type of experience. Or you can do your regular traditional reading, and of course you can use the power buttons or volume buttons here, and one obvious benefit of using the volume buttons as shortcuts is that you don't have this animation that you cannot get rid of in the Android app, but you don't have that when you're using the volume buttons as the page turn buttons. The same thing goes with the Kobo app. So for example, here I am with the Kobo. Opens up really fast, and you have your library here, you open it up, and of course you can do your whole thing, and the page buttons can be configured so that they work on this as well. And one of the benefits is that because these are third-party apps, you have the system-wide refresh modes. So yeah, if you want the best quality, then you can use it like this. And for example, for me, this is a little bit too thick and too strong, so I can go here and reduce this contrast to just make it a little bit more kind of nicer. And yeah, it's just like a lot of flexibility here. And I especially like the fact that this time I'm used to seeing all of these titles because I use Kobo Sage as my reader basically, and I'm used to seeing all of these titles in black and white, and it was actually quite nice to see them as colors. As a reader, incredibly flexible and incredibly powerful. Too bad that it's not ergonomically suited to be an e-reader, but as far as pure functionalities goes, yeah, really powerful. But yeah, things that I've already mentioned, definitely something to keep in mind. I performed the D.E.S.T.A test, writing latency test on the Tab Ultra C Pro, and I have to be honest, I was fully expecting it to blow the Note Air 3C out of the water and for it to be the new reigning champion, simply because it has that powerful Snapdragon 8 series in it, and it just kind of would make sense. Everything else is, supposed to be exactly the same, has a better CPU, so it should perform better, right? Well, no, that was a very big surprise for me because it's actually in a third place. It's remarkably consistent, but it is in a third place, and it is like by 1 millisecond slower average than the Note Air 3C. So yeah, it's by no means bad. It's still really, really excellent at 18.73, but it's a smidge slower than the Kindle Scribe and actually a little bit more of a smidge slower than the Note Air 3C, which was definitely a surprise. However, when you actually compare it to its predecessor, or the Tab Ultra C, you can see that there is quite a significant jump of almost, or let's say 4.5 milliseconds faster writing latency than the Tab Ultra C. But that being said, all of these here, you know, everything from 30 milliseconds and under is excellent category. It's just that this is really excellent, and this is like uber super duper excellent. So even it being in the third place, it still ranks as uber duper super excellent writing performance. So yeah, the writing experience on the Tab Ultra C Pro is nothing new. It feels pretty much exactly the same like the Tab Ultra C and the Tab Ultra, and that is very good. It's not excellent, but it is very, very good. Why is it very good? Because it's really, really fast. It's a little bit closer to the surface, as we've talked about in the screen section. And also this new glass that they are using, like on the Note Air 3C, gives you a little bit of a better feeling. Although I have to say that overall, the writing experience for me is at least one category better and above than the Tab Ultra C Pro. It's on the Note Air 3C. Everything combined, we know that Note Air 3C is a little bit faster. It has the paper-like screen foil, and for some reason it just feels softer. This one, when I write on it, it still feels like I'm hitting a glass here, when if I actually take the Note Air 3, it has a similar feel, but it's just more comfortable. And there's a little bit of that smoothness of the screen. While it's nice, there's a little bit of a, especially with these nibs, almost, it's not squeaking, but it's on the verge of maybe wanting to kind of squeak a little, and some people may be sensitive to that kind of sensation. This usually will wear out when the nib wears out, and I'm pretty sure that that's the case. This is a well-worn nib, and yes, of course, well, it's better, but my skin is also producing that kind of sound. So that's something that you have to kind of keep in mind, that it might be a little bit on the eek kind of side. But that being said, it's a very good writing experience. It's just not as good as the Note Air 3C, yes. Now again, yeah, same thing as with the reader. I'm not going to go through the guide of showing all of the examples and all of the functionalities of the notebooks. Short overview, it's a really, really powerful notebook that you can insert images, insert text, insert shapes. You can now fill shapes with colors. You can transform, you can mirror transforms, you can have multiple brushes, you can have multiple colors, you can transform your selections, you can convert text, convert handwriting to text. You can use the AI to automatically convert the text in the background. Then you can actually have searchable notebooks, and it's really, really powerful. And not only that, but you also have the ability of creating notes that are handwriting notes. So basically, when you're creating a new note, you can have a handwriting note or a text note. And these text notes are basically yeah, it's like a to-do list. So okay, if we have a to-do list, then there we go. Yeah, okay, and then you can fill it in, and you can use the keyboard to type and all that kind of stuff. However, one thing to know is that you cannot write on the typing notes. Overall, really, really powerful notebook experience, but it's a little bit messy. And all of the features are on paper are there, but not all of them function that well. And things have been improved in recent update 3.5. So for example, now you can safely change the orientation. Well, he crashed. On Note Air 3C at least, I could have done this, but there's another difference. So on the Note Air 3C, it doesn't have a tab OS. And on it, I was able to safely and normally change the orientation of a notebook and this one now it worked, but previous time it didn't really scale. So these are the messiness that I'm talking about, that on paper, yes, Boox devices have excellent slew of tools and functionalities, you know, like no other. Yes, you have insert, yes, you have links, but the way these things are implemented, they're a little bit, you know, they're buggy, a little bit janky, nothing feels tight. There's not a single tool, not a single functionality on the entirety of Boox platform that feels like, yeah, this is rock solid and this just works. Everything always feels like, is it gonna flip the orientation correctly this time or not? Is it gonna ruin my canvas and my overall notebook or not? And things like that. And that is just an inherent negative overall Boox platform. And unfortunately, Tab Ultra C Pro doesn't escape that destiny. One thing that was really highly requested, which was how does it work with OneNote? Well, first of all, it won't work like this with every app. In order for the device to have this kind of excellent performance in third-party apps, right? That's the responsibility of the app itself that needs to be optimized for use with an e-ink screen refresh protocols. Now, in this case, I know that OneNote is, and you can see how it works. It works excellent. So the performance is excellent. I hate OneNote, but you guys requested, so there it is. That's how it works. I can't look at it anymore, so I have to get out. But I think it works like with Evernote as well, a bit more janky, but you won't be able to have that level of performance, I believe, in any other app. So basically only the native note-taking app and the OneNote, those are the only two that I think that you can effectively use for handwriting on any of the Boox devices, Tab Ultra C Pro included. As far as the pure performance goes, there's really no competition because this is a Snapdragon 8 series, so as such, of course, that is going to obliterate every other device that was ever released by Boox or anyone else in the e-ink world. And that's not a surprise. I mean, this is simply what that SoC is capable of. And you can see that this big green line, it doesn't matter which benchmark suite of tests you're using, it's simply going to obliterate everything in work score, in storage score, in memory score. It doesn't matter. Like whatever you throw at it, it is going to be the best performer. So there's no question about that. Except for disk write speed here, Note 3C, tiny little advantage here, which was kind of surprising to see, but everything else, it's a huge, huge advantage to the Tab Ultra C Pro and the powerful Snapdragon 8, which is now 5-6 years old, because I have the same SoC in my phone that was released in 2019, but even then, Snapdragon 8 was around for a little while. So yeah, just wanted to kind of throw that out there as well, just to kind of keep in mind. One of the inherent strengths of an Android 12 device is that this is a Google Play pre-enabled device, and it's a normal Google Play Store that, coupled with the fast refresh modes, is extremely easy and intuitive to use. So, and when you couple that with the awesome performance of the Snapdragon 855 that Tab Ultra C has, then you have a very, very smooth and good Android experience overall. One thing that's really important to know is that Boox have managed to integrate in a very, very smooth and logical way the app optimizations. And what do I mean by that? Well, for example, let's say that I'm here in my overall home screen, right? And for whatever reason, I like to have that in HD mode, and I do like to have let me just see, not more settings, but I wanted to have it in a low contrast mode. and these are the settings that I like, right? Now I click on a Google Play Store and I've entered an app. That's what it effectively is. And this time when I go to an e-ink center, it's automatically going to do the app optimization, and it's going to remember these settings that I set here. So maybe I want vivid enhancement, maybe I want dark color enhancement, I want it on fast, and then I can even hit optimize and further optimize all of these things. Now the cool thing about this is that now when I go out, and let's add a third app, let's go to Edge. And on Edge, maybe I want to have it in balanced mode, and I don't want a super contrast, but I want color brightness and a little bit of vivid enhancements. And I don't want to use high contrast on so that I can see everything here. The cool thing about this is that once you do the changes in the e-ink center when the app is opened, the system will automatically save those settings as app optimizations. And every single time when you actually return to it, the e-ink settings are automatically gonna set to that mode. So for example, yeah, let's use high contrast in this case, and then I go back home, and then on home I have my home settings. And if I go back into the, where's my Edge, then you will have the settings that you had. So they managed to actually streamline the app optimizations in a really, really good way, and it's logical, it's effortless, and it's one of the rare examples where the software implementation is really, really well done. Now, aside it being an Android 12 system, that also means that it has all of the Android 12 functionalities, such as you can screencast, native Miracast screencast to any Miracast enabled device. Benefits and shortcomings of Miracast service, of course, come into play, the reliability being the main one. Of course, you have the Wi-Fi, you have the Bluetooth, you can take a screenshot, you can have a system-wide split screen, horizontal or vertical, depending on what you want to do. You can screen record, and you can also, if you use third-party apps, for example, the one that I like to use personally is Super Monitor, I believe. No, not Superior Groceries, but Super Monitor. I believe that's the one. Super Display, sorry, yeah, Super Display. So that is the one that I like to use on Android devices, and that allows you to actually transform this tablet into a 10.3-inch external wireless screen. It can also, with that app, for example, it doesn't have to be wireless, you can connect it via the USB-C, and then it will work okay. However, no, you cannot connect it with the USB-C to HDMI, even though, for example, it works on the same cable, same monitor, everything same, works with my phone, works with my Lenovo regular Android tablet, but doesn't work with any of the Boox devices, nor does it work with the HDMI out through an OTG. Yes, this supports USB OTG as well. So there's something about Boox devices, they're not enabling the outputting of HDMI, cabled HDMI connection for video in, but yeah, or video out, not video in, but video out. So that's something to keep in mind. But back on the using this as a display, yeah, depending on the app and the protocol that you use, it can be wireless, or it can be done actually via the USB-C as well, in which case you actually get faster latencies. As far as how does that perform, well, it performs exactly the same as on any other device, and since I'm going to be done with this and returning it soon, I'll be doing a dedicated video on my Note Air 3C, that's my own device. I'm going to be using it as a screen and then show you how that works. That's sometime in the future when I have the time to do it. But yeah, just so you know, that's also something that you can do. And on top of that, because it has a Bluetooth enabled Android 12, that means that you can use your favorite Bluetooth keyboard, Bluetooth mouse, Bluetooth page turning controller, or presentation pointer, or anything like that. So virtually anything that you would normally do with an Android 12 tablet, you can do with the Tab Ultra C Pro as well. And finally, one of the extra things is, of course, the dreaded camera on the back. Primary purpose of that camera should be this app here, which is for document scanning. And I'm not going to do any demos of that. Suffice to say, it works okay. You point it into the document, it scans it, and it can do the OCR conversion, right? So that's a very, very useful type of scenario here. But what you can also do this time is that we have a Snapdragon camera, because this is a Snapdragon device now, and then it actually can be used as a camera, and you can take photos, you can actually even take a video, right? So I can take a video, and now we're recording that, so we're recording a little bit. Oh, let me just be in the frame actually so that you can see. So that's me recording a video here. So if I stop and then go to, and the layout is your default layout as it would be. So if I play this back, oh, let me just be in the frame actually so that you can see. So that's me recording a video here. Okay, so you know, you can do these things, but keep in mind that this is a 16 megapixel camera, and yeah, there's only so much that you're going to be able to get out of it. And no, I'm not going to provide camera examples here, because that's not what this device is about. And what you have in your pocket with your phone is probably going to be a lot better than what the Tab Ultra C Pro can actually do. And then we get to the covers that are available for the Tab Ultra C Pro. I don't have the regular Flipbook cover. That's not something that I received as part of this package. But the regular Flipbook cover is the magnetic one. It snaps on the back, has 3 horizontal divides, and it goes around here, and then you can just flip it around and have it in a horizontal orientation like this or like this, and that's pretty much it. But unfortunately, it does not have the portrait orientation, which was a super strong point and one of my favorite features of the Note Air 3C. So unfortunately, this thing, which is super duper useful, Tab Ultra C cannot do under any circumstances. And yeah, that's a strange thing to kind of see as an omission. The second more important Flipbook cover that we have is the new version of the keyboard cover that you have now for the Tab Ultra C. The way it works, it's also magnetic, and you simply slot your device in here, and it will automatically understand that it is connected to a keyboard because of that backwards, the Kobo connection that's on the back. Now, as you actually go into here, you will have an option to automatically go into landscape when it is connected to the keyboard, and you can see your shortcuts, and refresh mode is switched to ultra fast if you want to. So okay, that's basically like, okay, so that's what you're gonna you can choose, and you can choose that it doesn't give you the reminder. And this is the list of shortcuts, hardware shortcuts, hardware key presses that you can use, and which the functions are. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but they are there for you to kind of see. And the way that this works is there's a significant improvement as well, and that is that here this back has a hinge, and that hinge allows you to have an adjustable viewing angle. This is the maximum angle. And the minimum angle is going to depend on the surface that you're down on when it's going to slip. The hinge feels good so far, but you know, with anything, we have this area here kind of bending and putting a lot of pressure on that seam. And whenever you have a seam of any kind, something that stretches and releases, I would expect that there's going to be material fatigue here over time. So maybe some rips or creases over time, and it remains to be seen how good and how strong that hinge is going to be after, I don't know, 10,000, 50,000 repetitions of opening and closing. That being said, this adjustability and the overall kind of setting, I really prefer as an update over what we had on the Tab Ultra C. Now, the second improvement with the keyboard cover comes in this large area here. So the keyboard is largely the same as it was on the Tab Ultra C, but here we have a trackpad that also has left and right clicks here, and here. Now, I'm not really sure why do we have, why do we have 2 clicks, because you don't have left and right click on an Android system, but we do. That's what we do have. As far as the performance goes, maybe you can see the cursor here. So if you're in HD mode, it's gonna be painfully slow. So what you really want to do is go into ultra fast, and that's why they have that option. And then it is a bit better, quite a lot better actually. But one of the main things that you really want to do is, if you're getting your Tab Ultra C Pro, is you gotta get yourself to the inputs. I believe that's in more, and then physical keyboard, and then the trackpad, yes. Then you have trackpad gestures. So this is a guide for trackpad gestures: home, back, screenshots, app switcher, scrolling left and right, pinch to zoom, and drag objects. By the way, pinch to zoom works backwards here, so maybe they'll fix that. But there was an option, and here's another point. I'm trying to find an option to show you where did I finally manage to find it to adjust the sensitivity of the mouse pointer or the trackpad, right? So that it's actually much more responsive, because by default it's super laggy, so you have to increase the speed. But because of the menu here, it's really unintuitive and difficult to find. So why isn't it in the trackpad? Now I need to go and kind of go like, okay, this is what I'm interacting with. It's in physical keyboard. Cool. Trackpad in there. Excellent. Where is my adjustments for the trackpad sensitivity? Not here. So I'm gonna have to now search and kind of see where we are. Mouse. I think it's in mouse. Yes, it's in mouse. All right, so then you can choose that you have a circle as a pointer or an arrow as your pointer. Then you have natural scrolling. Okay, so scroll wheel direction. This is what I want to actually switch, I guess, for it not to be, yeah, and now it's no longer backwards. So that's good. You can increase the pointer size so that you can see it more easily, and then you can actually very easily see things. And you can increase the pointer speed to something really strong, or a little bit less. And let's see how good is it for that. Yep. And then this is a little bit laggy. Then I can adjust it a little bit here, and then I have it good. All right, so that's what I wanted to kind of show you, that the default settings for the trackpad are not good, and they will give you a false impression that the trackpad is not performing well, and that's not the case. You need to be at least in the fast refresh mode, and you need to do these settings, and then the trackpad would actually be quite usable and quite normal to use in any kind of circumstance. So all that stuff is good until we get to the point which is when you need to close this up and then handle it. This keyboard cover is actually by an almost 100 grams heavier than the device itself, and the whole thing weighs 1070 something grams, so over 1 kilo for a portable 10.3-inch device. That is a very, very massive and tall order, and this is something that you're gonna lug around. This is not something that you carry around. This is not something that's around with you. This is something that you lug around. It's extremely heavy, and this is something that, yeah, it just doesn't... It has to be mentioned. It has to be a point of consideration, because when that kind of weight falls, there's going to be more acceleration, there's going to be a bigger force, and yes, it does have reinforcements here to definitely keep it all okay, and this is all metal because of the magnets inside. It's very rigid, it's very strong, but again, I mean, it's so heavy that it's just ridiculous, and it just doesn't make any sense, because in this case, for example, in my setup, I mean, this is, where's my pen? Here's the pen. So this is my Note Air 3C, and this is one of the portable keyboards that I'm just testing. I got it for 20 bucks. So first of all, this is $150 US. This one is this was like, yeah, 20 bucks, maybe even less. Actually, I didn't do the conversion. It's super light, portable, it's Bluetooth, it can do whatever you want it to do. It has bigger travel, it has a little bit of a better feel than the keys on that one, because yeah, more on that later. That's not a video that I'm going to talk about. And plus, because it's metal, it actually attaches to the back, and then it's super light, like really light. So when you add that to the package, it's just, you know, it's smaller footprint than the Tab Ultra C, lighter, incomparably lighter, and the thickness, I believe, is on the same side. Maybe it's a bit thicker. Let's see. It's probably going to be a bit thicker. Yes, a little bit thicker here, but you know, that's pretty much it. But I do get to have freedom of having a vertical orientation of this and placing the keyboard wherever I want and at an angle I want, or in my lap, and just kind of use it. And none of these things can be done with a far more expensive solution for the Tab Ultra C Pro. Granted, yes, I can use the same keyboard on the Tab Ultra C Pro, and I don't have to buy this, but I don't have the portrait orientation on the C Pro, and yeah, that's something that I don't fully understand. Why would they make such a difference? I mean, it could have been easily a same type of folio for the C Pro, but you don't have that, so it's something that you have to keep in mind. All right, and now it's the conclusion time for the Tab Ultra C Pro, and as usual, let's start with the cons. And the very first con that I believe absolutely is the biggest one is the battery life. Same like as on the Note Air 3C, battery life is not good on Tab Ultra C Pro. The second con for me would be that camera bump, simply because it doesn't lend itself well ergonomically for writing, typing, albeit yes, it is easily eliminated if you use the folio constantly, but it is something that I believe is completely unnecessary on a device like this. Then we have the next con would be the keyboard cover weight and cost, because it's heavier than the device itself and it's just way too bulky, and for $150 US, yeah, it's not something that I'm kind of happy with. Another con would be that there's no portrait mode on the regular Flipbook cover as a stand, like the Note Air 3C has that. Writing experience is not as good as it is on the Note Air 3C. Not to say that it's bad, it's just not as good as it is on the Note Air 3C. Another fact that's true of the Note Air 3C as well is that as an ultimate device, it's great, but it will never be upgraded past Android 12. So that's something that you absolutely have to keep in mind. Then we also have the inherent cons and limitations of the Boox OS, along with a very steep learning curve. That's again part of the Boox OS. Then we also have the inherent darkness of Kaleido 3 panels, which is No panel that uses, no device that uses a Kaleido tree panel can escape that con. And that automatically also demands more use of the front light at a higher intensity than a black and white device. And when you actually combine that with the increased BSR battery consumption, that's not a fun combo at all. Now onto the pros of the Tab Ultra C Pro. And the first pro would be, well, pro of a pro. A very powerful and capable SoC in that Snapdragon 855. Extremely powerful and capable processor and device. Excellent image quality. Excellent reader performance and capabilities, excellent writing speed performance. Yeah, writing speed performance, not the comfort. Very good writing comfort, but excellent writing speed performance. Then we have Android 12 with pre-installed Google Play. We have that camera. I don't like the camera bump, but you do have a 16 megapixel camera for those who are interested in that or need it, especially for scanning documents. As a camera, not so much, but for scanning documents, yeah, definitely something that can be used. And all these things make the Tab Ultra C Pro very, very versatile as a device. And also the keyboard trackpad, the new layout of the trackpad, it adds to the overall usability of the Tab Ultra C Pro. How to summarize the Tab Ultra C Pro? Well, it's the most powerful e-ink, color e-ink tablet on the market today, and that's an indisputable fact. That's just the way it is. So installing, uninstalling, and opening apps will all be noticeably faster than on the Tab Ultra C or on the Note Air 3C or any of the other devices, simply because of that Snapdragon 855. Also, the in-app operations like activating options, switching between tabs, opening web pages, scrolling is going to be the same, but opening web pages, flipping between web pages, those are also going to be noticeably faster than on either of the Note Air 3C or the Tab Ultra C. So, yes, if what you're looking for is the ultimate performance out of your e-ink tablet device, then Tab Ultra C Pro definitely delivers. There's no other e-ink device out there in the market that can match the raw, brutal performance and the speed of the Tab Ultra C Pro. However, this speed and power comes pretty much at a great cost, both financially and especially that battery life. But even here, let me play the devil's advocate here. Even here, one could argue the point and say, well, I get the same battery life as on a Note Air 3C, but I get better performance than I do on the Note Air 3C, and that is certainly a valid point and correct. So yes, if what you're looking for are all of those things and you are willing to pay $800 for the device and the keyboard cover, $740 currently with some discounts on the Boox shop, for a device with a keyboard cover, which is basically that keyboard cover is one of the differentiating points of the Tab Ultra C. So you really probably want that cover. Then Tab Ultra C Pro will definitely deliver. And it will deliver that for at least 7 or 8 months, that is, until the Boox decides to release a new iteration that will replace the Tab Ultra C Pro, like it replaced the Tab Ultra C after it being on the market. Well, this is the Ultra C Pro, but it's the same thing. After Tab Ultra C was on the market for only 7 months. So that chasing of the best, the ultimate, the fastest, and all of that kind of stuff, it's kind of pointless in its own. And if you're going to shell out that amount of money, then you need to find yourself a much more valid and a better reason for going for a device like Tab Ultra C Pro, right? Because if that's what you want, like that, you're going to be disappointed no matter what. So for your own sake, if you're going to spend $800, you better find better reasons to actually buy something like that so that you avoid disappointment in the future, inevitably, when a replacement comes, because that's what technology does. It churns devices and goes forward. However, if what you're looking for is basically a lighter, smaller, more elegant, more versatile, and cheaper device that can do pretty much everything that the Tab Ultra C Pro can do, minus the camera functionality, then you should definitely go with the Note Air 3C or with the Tab Ultra C if you really want that camera and you don't mind the performance difference and Android 11 instead of Android 12. But especially with the Note Air 3C, pair it with a Bluetooth keyboard of your own choice and a mouse of your own choice, and you'll have a more versatile and a better typing experience than on the Tab Ultra C Pro because of that portrait stand functionality that Note Air 3C has, and the Tab Ultra C Pro simply can't do in any configuration as of yet. So there, that's basically my conclusion and the summary of the Tab Ultra C Pro. It's Tab Ultra C on steroids with quite a few improvements, so it is an iterative design. And as Brandon and Kit and I discussed in our last live stream chat, if you haven't checked it out, go to live streams and definitely check it out because that was a really cool talk. I think that even though this is definitely not a device for me, I own the Tab Ultra, the regular one, I didn't like it, I sold it, and now I have Note 3C and I'm happy as a puppy. I really love that device. Even though inherently this does have quite a few cons to go with it, it also has really important pros. And I think the Tab Ultra C Pro, like the Tab Ultra C and the Tab Ultra, they're all important iterations and important devices because Boox is trying to do something different. And Note Air 3C has already had many iterations until it has reached that stage where everything is tightened up, buttoned up, and everything works the way it should be. Tab Ultra C or Tab Ultra C Pro is not there yet. They are trying to figure stuff out. They're improving things on an iterative basis, where the pogo should be, what's the edges, do we want a camera bump, do really people need a camera, can we actually put a camera that doesn't have a bump or something like that. So all of those things they will need to figure out over time and over iterations of the Tab Ultra C, and that's a natural progression of a device evolution and iteration. So I think that what they're trying to do is an important thing, definitely, but that is not a device for me. And who is this for? Well, if you want an all-in-one device that's using an e-ink screen and you don't mind that it's going to have, in some cases, worse battery life than your smartphone and your regularly powered OLED tablet, even though the whole point of an e-ink screen is to have excellent battery life, that's a big ask. But if somehow you find yourself in that category and you don't mind that, well then this is okay for you at 800 bucks. I don't know, I really don't know. I mean, I know it does have positive points, definitely it does. But is it necessary? I mean, does it really bring that much new to the table from the Tab Ultra C, and especially at that price point and at the lower battery capacity and worse battery life? I'm really not sure, and I'm not really sold on the Tab Ultra C Pro, but hopefully this video provides you with the information and the details that you might need to reach a decision if the Tab Ultra C Pro is the right device for you or not. Please let me know down in the comments down below what your impression is, what do you find important regarding these devices, what your thoughts are regarding the Tab Ultra C Pro, and yeah, basically which do you prefer, Note Air 3C, Tab Ultra C, Tab Ultra C Pro, or maybe Note Air 2 and Note Air 2 Plus, the traditional ones, you know, the ones that had really long battery life. Maybe those as well at a much lower price point. Something to think about, isn't it? Anyway, I hope that you found the video useful and informative. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell in the description below to get notified when new videos come out on mydeepguide. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!